We're up. Good morning, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, and welcome to week 14 of the week that was, where we look at individual and team numbers from all 15 games from the past week in the National Football League. As always, this will be done in two parts. Part one, which is the video we're on now, we'll be taking a look at Thursday night football between the Patriots and the Steelers and the 7 early games from Sunday afternoon, including the Rams and Ravens, Jaguars and Browns, Lions and Bears, and more. Then in part two, which will be coming out later on today, we'll look at the 4 Sunday afternoon late games, including the Seahawks and 49ers and the Broncos and Chargers. We'll also look at Sunday night football with the Eagles and Cowboys and the Monday night football doubleheader with the Giants and Packers and the Titans and Dolphins, plus my Week 15 power rankings and the updated playoff standings entering Week 15. That's up in part two, but let's get started with part one, and we'll begin as always with Thursday night football as the New England Patriots beat the Pittsburgh Steelers by a final of 21-18. We'll start with individual numbers for the New England Patriots first and foremost. All right, Bailey Zappi was 19 of 28 for 240 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception and a quarterback rating of 115.2. Leading rusher was Ezekiel Elliott, 22 rushes, 68 yards, averaged 3.1 yards per run. Zappi, 3 for 13 yards on 4.3 per run. Juju Smith-Schuster paced the New England receivers. He had 4 catches for 90 yards on 6 targets, averaging 22.5 yards per catch. Ezekiel Elliott, 7 catches for 72 and a touchdown on 8 targets at 10.3 yards per catch. Hunter Henry, 3 for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3 targets at 13.3 yards per catch. Ty Montgomery, 1 catch, 17 yards on 2 targets. Thornton, 3 catches, 17 yards on 5 targets at 5.7 yards per catch. Brown, 1 catch, 4 yards on 1 target. Jalen Reagor was targeted once but did not record a catch on Thursday. Chad Ryland, 0 for 0 on field goals, no field goals attempted, 3 for 3 on extra points. Behringer, 9 punts, averaging 43.9 yards. Longest was 66, with a couple of touchbacks and 3 punts inside the 20. All right, Tavai paced the Patriots defense with 8 tackles. Jones had 6 tackles. Jalen Mills, 4 tackles. Kyle Duggar, 4 tackles, half a sack, and a pass defense. Jennings with 4 tackles. Bryant with 3 tackles and a pass defense. Bentley and Gottschall each had 2 tackles. Wilson, 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass defense. And Christian Barmore with 1 tackle and half a sack for the Patriots. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mitch Trubisky, 22 of 35, 190 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 74.7 QB rating. Hayward also attempted a pass in this game with no completions, 39.6 QB rating. Trubisky was the leading rusher for Pittsburgh, 8 rushes, 30 yards, and a touchdown on 3.8 per run. Najee Harris, 12 for 29 yards on 2.4 per run. Austin, 1 rush, 12 yards. Warren, 7 rushes, 11 yards on 1.6 per run. Leading receivers are Deontay Johnson, 3 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets at 19 yards a catch. Warren, four catches, 29 yards on 5 targets at 7.3 yards per catch. Allen Robinson, 1 catch, 21 yards on 3 targets. George Pickens, 5 catches, 19 yards on 6 targets at 3.8 per catch. Najee Harris, 3 for 19 yards on 3 targets at 6.3 per catch. Pat Freiermuth, 3 catches, 18 yards on 7 targets, averaging 6 yards a catch. Hayward, 2 grabs, 15 yards, 2 targets at 7.5 per catch. Washington, 1 catch, 12 yards on 2 targets. All right. Boswell, 1 for 1 on field goals. The only field goal he attempted, he made from 56 yards, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Harvin, 6 punts, averaging 44.5 yards per 53 was his longest, 1 touchback, and 1 punt inside 20. Herbig led the Steelers defense. He had 5 tackles. Casey Hayward, 5 tackles and a sack. Joey Porter Jr., 4 tackles, 1 pass defense. TJ Watt with 3 tackles. Patrick Peterson, 3 tackles. Kazee had 3 tackles. Roberts, 2 tackles, 1 sack, and a pass defense. Minka Fitzpatrick had 2 tackles. Martinez had 2 tackles as well, as did Alex Highsmith. All right. Total yards, 303 for the Patriots, 264 for the Steelers. Passing yards, 222 to 182 for New England. Rushing yards, slight edge to Pittsburgh, 82 to 81. Time of possession, Steelers 32 minutes, 19 seconds. Patriots 27 minutes and 41 seconds. First downs, 18 for Pittsburgh, 14 for New England. Third downs, the Patriots were 4 for 13, Steelers 3 for 14. On fourth down, the Patriots made no attempts, and the Steelers were 1 for 3. The Patriots had 7 penalties for 59 yards. They were sacked twice, 18, no fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 9 punts. The Steelers had just 1 penalty the entire game for 5 yards. They were sacked twice as well, losing 8 yards, with no fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 6 punts. Closing line was Pittsburgh minus 5.5, and the over-under was at 30. I picked the Steelers both straight up and against the spread, so I lost both those picks. All right, now to Sunday, starting things off with the New Orleans Saints hammering the Carolina Panthers by a final score of 28-6. There it is. All right. So with the win, the Patriots improved to 3-10, and the Steelers fell to 7-6. As for the Panthers and Saints, New Orleans is now 6-7. Carolina is 1-12. All right. Let's take a look at the individual for the New Orleans Saints. There it is. Okay. All right. Derek Carr, 18 of 26, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 88.5. Alvin Kamara, 12 rushes, 56 yards, 1 touchdown on 4.7 per run. He paced the New Orleans ground attack. Jamal Williams, 11 for 43 yards on 3.9 per run. Jameis Winston, 2 runs, minus 2 yards. A.T. Perry had just 1 catch in the game for the Saints for 44 yards on his lone target. Chris Olave, 4 catches, limited to 28 yards. He did score a touchdown on his 5 targets. He averaged 7 yards a catch. Bowden Jr., 4 catches, 24 yards on 4 targets at 6 per catch. Jimmy Graham, 2 for 16 and a touchdown on 2 targets at 8 per catch. Johnson, 2 for 10 yards on 2 targets at 5 per catch. Moreau, 2 for 8 yards on 2 targets at 4 per catch. Williams was targeted once but didn't record a reception. Alvin Kamara, 3 catches, minus 11 yards on 5 targets. That's minus 3.1 yards per reception. All right, on to special teams. Groupie, 0 for 1 on field goals, 4 for 4 on extra points. Headley, 5 punts. He averaged 40 yards per. His longest was 46, with 3 inside the 20-yard line. Howden led the Saints defense with 8 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and a pass defense. Davis, 5 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 pass defense. Tyrann Mathieu, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Adebo, 5 tackles. Granderson, 4 tackles and a sack. Saunders, 3 tackles. Shepard, 3 tackles and half a sack. Taylor had 3 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 passes defense. And Werner, or rather Johnson, had 3 tackles. Werner, by the way, had a couple of tackles for the Saints defense. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, really bad game. 13 of 30, 137 yards, no touchdowns or INTs, but his quarterback rating was very poor at 48. Hubbard, 23 rushes, 87 yards, 3.8 yards per run, led the Panthers. Miles Sanders, 10 for 74 at 7.4 per run. Bryce Young, 3 rushes, 40 yards on 13.3 per run. Smith Marset, 1 rush, 10 yards. Blackshear, 1 rush, 4 yards. And Johnny Hecker, this is the punter, 1 rush for minus 11. All right, on to the receivers. Adam Thielen led the way with 5 catches, 74 yards on 7 targets at 14.8 yards per catch. DJ Chark, 2 for 26 yards on 4 targets, 13 yards per catch. Mingo, 2 catches, 22 yards on 9 targets at 11 per catch. Hubbard, 2 catches, 9 yards, 2 targets on 4.5. Blackshear, 1 catch, 4 yards on 2 targets. Tremble, 1 catch, 2 yards on 3 targets. Smith Marset targeted once, no catches. Sullivan targeted 4 times and no catches. And Miles Sanders targeted once and no catches. Eddie Pinheiro, 2 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 47 and no extra points attempted. Johnny Hecker, 2 punts at 43 yards per. Longest was 49 with no touchbacks, no punts inside the 20, and no blocks. J.C. Horn led the Carolina defense with 7 tackles and 1 pass defense. Brown, 5 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Xavier Woods, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense. Von Bell, 4 tackles. Tuttle, 3 tackles. Louvu, 2 tackles, and a sack. And Hill with 2 tackles for the Carolina Panthers. All right. Total yards, 303 for the Panthers and 207 for the Saints. Passing yards, 110 to 99, New Orleans. Rush yards, 204 to 97, Carolina. Time of possession, Panthers 34 minutes, 50 seconds. Saints 25 minutes, 10 seconds. The Panthers had 16 first downs. The Saints had 14. On third down, Carolina was 8 for 20, and New Orleans was 3 for 10. Fourth downs, Carolina 1 for 7, and the Saints had no fourth down plays. The Panthers had 4 penalties for 27 yards. They were sacked 4 times, losing 38. They lost 2 fumbles, threw no interceptions, and punted the ball twice. The Saints had 3 penalties for 30 yards, sacked once for 9 yards. No fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 5 punts. Closing line, New Orleans minus 5.5, and the over-under was 39. I took the Saints straight up, but I picked Carolina with the points. So I'm now 1-1 straight up this week, 0-2 ATS. All right, the next game we're going to look at will be the Chicago Bears beating up the Detroit Lions 28-13. All right, your individual numbers for the Bears. Justin Fields, 19 of 33, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and an 88.3 passer rating. He was also Chicago's leading rusher, 12 rushes, 58 yards, and a TD on 4.8 yards per run. Donta Foreman, 11 for 50 yards on 4.5 per run. DJ Moore, 3 rushes, 20 yards, and a touchdown on 6.7. Khalil Herbert, 3 for 8 on 2.7, and Johnson, 1 rush for 6 yards. DJ Moore led the Chicago receiving corps with 6 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets at 11.3 yards per catch. Cole Kmet, 5 for 66 yards on 7 targets, 13.2 per catch. Darnell Mooney, 2 catches, 44 yards, 7 targets at 22 per catch. Foreman, 2 for 22 yards on 3 targets, 11 per catch. Jones Jr. and Scott each had 1 catch for 11 yards on 1 target. Lewis, 1 target, or 1 catch rather, on 1 target for 4 yards. Johnson targeted once, no catches. Blasingame, 1 catch for -3 yards. Come on. All right. Cairo Santos, 3 for 3 on extra point, or rather 3 for 3 on field goal. Longest was 46, and 1 for 2 on extra points. Gill, 3 punts, averaging 43 yards. Longest was 53. 1 punt inside the 20. Brisker faced the Chicago Bears defense with 13 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 passes defense. Tremaine Edmonds, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an INT. Stevenson, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Smith, 4 tackles. Montez Sweat, 3 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Edwards, 3 tackles and 1 pass defense. Jackson, 3 tackles. Jones, 1 tackle and 1.5 sacks. And Yannick Ngakoue, 1 tackle and 1 sack for the Chicago Bears. For the Lions, Jared Goff was 20 of 35 for 161 with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. His quarterback rating was 54.6. Leading rusher was David Montgomery, 10 for 66 yards on 6.6 per run. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 rushes, 66 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 6 per run. Sam Laporta, 1 rush for 4 yards. Same numbers for Jamison Williams. Glasgow, 1 rush for no yards. Same with Jared Goff. All right. Leading receiver was Reynolds. 3 catches, 4 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets at 14.7 yards per catch. Sam Laporta, 2 for 23 yards on 6 targets at 11.5 per catch. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3 for 21 yards on 9 catches, or rather 9 targets, and 7 yards a catch. David Montgomery, 3 catches, 19 yards on 3 targets, 6.3 yards per catch. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 1 catch, 17 yards, 1 target. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 for 16 on 4 targets, 5.3 per catch. Khalif Raymond, 3 for 15 yards on 4 targets at 5 per catch. Wright, 2 catches, yards, 2 targets, 3 yards per grab. Jamison Williams was targeted once, but didn't record a catch on Sunday. Riley Patterson, no field goals attempted, 1 for 2 on extra points. Jack Fox, 4 punts, 51.8 yards per punt. Longest is 58, and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Campbell had 6 tackles to lead the Lions defense. Anzalone, 5 tackles. Joseph, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Kaminsky, 3 tackles and a sack. Vidor, 3 tackles. Barnes, Jones, Melfonwu, and Sutton had 2 tackles apiece. Jacobs had 2 tackles and 1 pass defense for Detroit. All right, total yards, 336 for the Bears, 267 for the Lions. Passing yards, 194 to 127. Rushing yards for 142 to 140, both favoring the Bears. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 19 seconds for Chicago, 26 minutes, 41 seconds for Detroit. The Bears had 20 first downs, while the Lions had 13. All right, the Lions were 6 of 15 on 3rd down, 1 for 5 on 4th down, while the Bears were 6 for 14 on 3rd down and 1 for 2 on 4th down. The Lions had 8 penalties for 59 yards. They were sacked 4 times, losing 34 yards, with 1 fumble lost, 2 interceptions thrown, and 4 punts. And the Bears had 4 penalties for 35 yards. They were sacked 3 times, losing 29, no fumbles or interceptions, and 3 punts. Closing line was Detroit -3. Over under was 44.5. I took the Lions straight up and against the spread. So right now my picks are not hitting at this point. I am 1-2 straight up and 0-3 against the spread. All right, the next game will be the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. Zach Wilson returned for the Jets, and he looked masterful as New York hammered Houston 30-6. The big news from this game is quarterback C.J. Stroud. More on him in just a moment. But first, we'll look at the individual numbers for the Jets. Zach Wilson in his return, one of his best games. 27 of 36 for 301, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Solid quarterback rating of 117.9. Breece Hall, 10 rushes, 40 yards at 4 per pop. Dalvin Cook, 7 for 13, averaging just 1.9. Zach Wilson, 3 for 12 yards, also averaging 4 per pop. Gibson, 1 rush, 9 yards, and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 1 rush, 3 yards. Baldwin, 1 rush, 3 yards. Abani Konda rushes -1 yard. So tired of this doing it. Trying to scroll down and it takes me somewhere else. Anyway, on to the Jets receivers. Garrett Wilson, 9 catches, 108 on 4 targets, 12 yards per catch. Breece Hall, 8 for 86 and a touchdown on 9 targets at 10.8 per catch. Tyler Conklin, 4 for 57 on targets, 14.3 per catch. Ruckert, 3 catches, 37 yards, 3 targets at 12.3. Randall Cobb, 1 catch for 15, and it goes for a touchdown on his lone target of the game. Gibson, 1 catch, 3 yards on 1 target, and Dalvin Cook, 1 catch, -5 yards on 1 target. Greg Zuerlein, 3 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 55, 3 for 3 on extra points. Thomas Morstead, 5 punts at 47.6 per. Longest was 61, 1 touchback, and 3 punts inside the 20-yard line. All right. Reed had 4 tackles and 3 passes defense, leading the Jets defense. That's got to be Quinnen Williams. Because there are 2 Q Williamses on this for the Jets. One is Quinnen Williams. The other is Quincy Williams. Okay, this is Quincy Williams. He had 3 tackles and a pass defense. Gardner, 3 tackles, 2 passes defense. Adams and Mosley, that's CJ Mosley, both had 2 tackles and 1 pass defense. Quinnen Williams had 2 tackles and a sack. Davis, 2 tackles. Thomas, 2 tackles and a sack. And Huff, 1 tackle and a sack for the Jets. Now to the Houston Texans. C.J. Stroud, 10 of 23 for just 91 yards with no touchdowns or interceptions and a 54.8 passer rating. He would leave this game, I think, with a concussion. Davis Mills came in, was 1 for 5 for 4 yards, so not much better. QB rating of 39.6. Devin Singletary, 13 rushes, 65 yards, and a touchdown on 5 per run. Dameon Pierce, 4 for 9 yards, 2.3 yards per run. Agumba Wale, 2 for 7 yards on 3.5 per run. C.J. Stroud ran once for no gain. Now to the Texans receivers. Jordan, 3 catches, 35 yards on 3 targets, 11.7 yards catch. Beck, 1 for 26 on 1 target. Hutchinson, Hutchinson, 2 for 15 yards, 7.5 per catch on 3 targets. Nico Collins, 1 grab, 13 yards, 1 target, 13 per catch. Obviously enough. Mechie, 1 for 6 yards on 5 targets. Agumba Wale, 1 for 4 yards on 2 targets. Singletary was targeted 3 times. Brown targeted 5 times. Neither recorded a catch. Woods, 1 for -2 yards on 3 targets. And Pierce, 1 for -3 yards on 1 target. Amendola, no field goals attempted, 0 for 1 on extra points. Johnston, 8 punts at 50.6 yards per punt. Longest was 6 inside the 20-yard line. Harris and Petrie each finished with 7 tackles for the Texans. Harris added a forced fumble in the game. Ward with 5 tackles. Grenard with 5 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pass defense. Stingley, 5 tackles. Nelson tackles. Cashman, 3 tackles. Davis, Hanson, and Barnes each had 2 tackles. And Sheldon Rankins had 2 tackles and a sack for the Houston Texans. All right, total yards 347 for the Jets, 135 for the Texans. Passing yards favored New York big time, 268 to 54. Rush yards slight advantage to the Houston Texans, 81 to 79. Time of possession, New York 37 minutes 5 seconds, Houston 22 minutes 55 seconds. 2-1 advantage to the Jets on first down. On first downs, they had 20, while the Texans had just 10. All right. Third down, 1 for 12 for the Texans. Big reason why they lost. And 0-3 on fourth down. Jets 6 of 15 on third downs, 1 for 1 on fourth downs. All right. The Texans with 4 penalties for 35 yards. They were sacked 5 times for 41. No fumbles lost, no interceptions, and 8 punts. Just couldn't get the offense going. For the New York Jets, 8 penalties for 52 yards. They were sacked 4 times, losing 33. With 1 fumble lost, no interceptions, and 5 punts. Okay, closing line is 3. Over under was 33.5. I picked Texans to win straight up and against the spread, and I lost both those picks as well. So that drops me to 1-3 and 0-4. Straight up and against the spread. Not good to start the week off. And you think the Colts-Bengals game would reverse my fortunes? Well, you'd be wrong. As Cincinnati blows away Indianapolis 34-14, and another solid start, Jake Browning in place for the injured Joe Burrow, who is out for the season. All right. We're going to take a look now at the individual numbers for the Bengals. Maybe. My computer's acting up today. There it is. All right, so those are the Colts. Here we go. Here's the Bengals. Jake Browning, 18 of 24, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Great quarterback rating for him, 122.7. Pretty much picking up where he left off last Monday night against the Jaguars. McCarron, 1 catch, or rather 1 for 1, 1 completion, 1 attempt for -1 yards. He had a 79.2 passer rating. Joe Mixon, 21 rushes, 79 yards, and a touchdown on 3.8 yards run. Brown, 8 for 25. I read that wrong. Averaged 3.1 run. And Jake Browning also added a rushing touchdown as he went 3-7 on the ground at 2.3 per run. All right. Over to the Bengals receivers. Brown, 3 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets, 26.7 yards per catch. T. Higgins, 2 catches, 72 yards, 4 targets at 36 a catch. Joe Mixon, 3 for 46 on 4 targets, 15.3 per catch. Jamar Chase, 3 for 29 on 4 targets, 9.7 per catch. Tyler, 2 for 23 yards on 3 targets, 11.5 per grab. Hudson, 2 for 21 and a touchdown on 3 targets and 10.5 per grab. Drew Sample, 2 catches, 4 yards, 2 targets at 2 yards a catch. Wilcox, 1 catch, no gain, 1 target. Williams, 1 catch, minus yard, and 1 target. Jumping to the special teams for the goals. Evan McPherson, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest is 35, 4 for 4 on extra points. Robbins with 4 punts, averaging 36.8 yards per punt, longest was 52, with 1 punt inside the 20. Jumping over to the defense now, Jermaine Pratt led the way with 4 tackles and half a sack. Wilson, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Hilton, 4 tackles. Awuzie, 4 tackles and 2 passes defense. Hill, Battle, and Turner each had 3 tackles. Hubbard, 2 tackles. Trey Hendrickson, 2 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pass defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. Meanwhile, for the Indianapolis Colts, Gardner Minshew, 26 of 39 for 240 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and an 81.1 QB rating. Leading rusher was Zach Moss, 13 for 28 at 2.2 per run. Sermon, 3 for 13 on 4.3 per run. And Gardner Minshew ran twice for 5. That's 2.5 per run if you're keeping score. Why is this not? Come on. Why is this not scrolling? Why is this not scrolling? Here we go. Okay. For the Colts receivers, Michael Pittman, 8 catches, 95 yards on 11 targets at 11.9 yards per catch. Mallory, 5 grabs, 46 yards on 5 targets at 9.2 per catch. Downs, 3 catches, 32 yards on 3 targets, 10.7 per catch. Zach Moss, 4 for 28 on 8 targets, 7 per grab. Pierce, 2 for 22 on 3 targets, 11 per grab. Granson, 2 for 17 on 4 targets, 8.5 per grab. Mo Alley Cox, 1 catch, 2 yards for a touchdown on his lone target. Ogletree, targeted twice, no catches. Goodson, 1 catch for minus 2 yards on 1 target. On special teams, Matt Gay, 0 for 1 on field goals, 0 on extra points. Sanchez, 4 punts at 48.5 per punt. Longest is 55. 2 punts inside the 20. All right. Zaire Franklin. Franklin and Baker led the Indianapolis defense with 6 tackles apiece. Baker also had a pass defense. Blackman with 5 tackles. Jones and Stewart, that's Grover Stewart, they both had 4 tackles. DeForest Buckner, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Harrison, 3 tackles, pass defense, and a pick 6. He had an INT return for a touchdown. Kenny Moore, 3 tackles, Cross with 2 tackles, and Kwity Paye with 1 tackle. Kenny Moore also had a pass defense for the Colts. All right, total yards, 385 for the Bengals, 272 for the Colts. Passing yards and rushing both favor Cincinnati, 274, 226 in the passing category, 111 to 46 in the rushing category. Time of possession, Bengals 31 minutes, 52 seconds. Colts 28 minutes, 8 seconds. Both teams finished with 19 first downs. All right, both teams were also 3 for 11 on third down. As for fourth down, the Colts were for 2, Bengals were 1 for 1. Indianapolis had 9 penalties for 66 yards. They were sacked 3 times, losing 14, with 1 fumble lost, 1 interception. And Cincinnati had 5 tackles, or rather 5 penalties for 40 yards. They were not sacked. They didn't lose a fumble either. They did throw an interception, and each team finished the game with 4 punts. Why is this thing not scrolling? What is the deal here? There we go. Finally. Go all the way down. All the way there. Closing line was Cincinnati -3 after all that kerfuffle. Over under was 44.5. I took the Colts up and against the point spread. Yeah, I am not having a good week making these picks thus far. 1-4 overall, straight up. And not a single win ATS. I'm now 0-5. All right. Our next game is the Cleveland Browns over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 31-27. So Houston and Indy both losing, Jacksonville is still in control in the AFC South, as they are now 8-5. The Browns are also 8-5. Individual numbers first for Cleveland. Joe Flacco, 26 of 45, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 92 passer rating. They'll turn back clock action for the veteran Joe Flacco. 12 rushes, 51 yards, 4.3 per run. Kareem Hunt, 10 for 27 and a touchdown at 2.7 per run. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 1 rush, 5 yards. Strong, 1 rush, no yards. Joe Flacco, 4 rushes, -1 yard. Leading receiver for the Browns is David Njoku, 6 catches, 91 yards, 2 scores on 8 targets, 15.2 yards per catch. Then you've got Amari Cooper with 7 catches, 77 yards on 14 targets, and 11 yards per catch. If he had made more catches, he very well may have had a 100-yard game. Moore had 3 catches, 42 yards on 6 targets at 14 per grab. Bell made 1 catch on 3 targets for 41 yards, and it goes for a touchdown. 4 for 31 on 6 targets at 6.2 per catch. Tillman, 2 for 23 on 4 targets at 11.5 per catch. Hunt and Atkins each had 1 catch for 3 yards on 1 target. Hopkins was 1 for 1 on field goals, connecting from 55 yards, and 4 for 4 on extra points. So he had a pretty good game. Bojorquez, 8 punts at 51.5 yards per punt. Longest was 72. Very impressive. 1 touchback and 3 punts inside the 20. Owosu Kamara led the Cleveland defense with 8 tackles. Delpit, 5 tackles, 1 sack. Newsome, 5 tackles, 4 passes defense, and an interception. Emerson, 4 tackles, 3 passes defense, and 2 interceptions. Hurst, 4 tackles and a sack. Walker, 3 tackles and a forced fumble. Bell, 3 tackles. Okoronkwo, 2 tackles and a sack for the Browns. Now jumping over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, who injured his ankle last Monday night against Cincinnati, did return for this game. He was 28 of 50 for 257 with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and a 65.2 quarterback rating. Travis Etienne limited to 35 yards on 14 rushes and a touchdown at 2.5 per run. Johnson, 3 rushes, 12 yards, 4 per pop. Trevor Lawrence, 3 for 11 on 3.7. All right, to the receivers for Jacksonville, Evan Ingram, 11 catches, 95 yards, 2 TDs on 12 targets, 8.6 yards per catch. Calvin Ridley, 4 for 53 on 13 targets, 13.3 per catch, Travis Etienne, 4 for 37 on 4 targets, 9.3 per catch. Zay Jones, 5 for 29 on 14 targets, 5.8 per catch. So the top 3 receivers for the Jaguars, Ingram, Ridley, and Jones, collectively made 20 catches, and they were targeted 39 times. Washington, 2 catches, 27 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets, and 13 points per catch. And Johnson, 2 for 16 on 3 targets at 8 per catch. No field goals attempted for McManus, but he was 3 for 3 on extra points. And Cook had 7 punts at 45.9 yards per punt. 57 is his longest, with 2 punts inside the 20. Jumping over to the Jags defense, Brown led the way with 7 tackles and 1 pass defense. Olakun, 5 tackles. Jenkins, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Josh Allen, not the Bills quarterback, but the Jags linebacker, he had 5 tackles. Lloyd had 4 tackles. Cisco, 3 tackles. Ledbetter, 2 tackles. Wingard, 2 tackles and a forced fumble. And Williams with 2 tackles, 3 passes defense, and an interception. All right, total yards, 389. Jaguars, 293. Passing yards were 307, 235. Advantage Browns. Rushing yards also favored Cleveland, 82 to 58. Time of possession, Browns 31 minutes, 49 seconds. Jaguars 28 minutes, 11 seconds. Jacksonville had more first downs than Cleveland, 20 to 16. All right. Third downs, the Jaguars were 7 of 17 and the Browns were 4 of 18. 0 for 1 on fourth downs for the Jaguars. Cleveland, a perfect 3 for 3. And a lot of penalties doled out to both teams. 7 flags for 40 yards for the Jaguars. They were sacked 4 times, losing 22, with 1 fumble loss, 3 interceptions, and 7 punts. And the Browns had 8 penalties for 75 yards. They were sacked once, losing 4, with 2 lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 8 punts. So if you look at this game, there were as many punts as there were penalties, 15 each. Closing line was Cleveland minus 2.5, and the over-under was 37. I took the Browns both straight up and against the spread, and I mainly based that off of the fact of possibly Trevor Lawrence not playing in this game, but he did play. Either way, the Browns won, and I took those picks. Now we're off to the game of the day, at least in the early window on Sunday, and that's the Baltimore Ravens outlasting the Los Angeles Rams in overtime, 37 to 31. All right, individual numbers for the Ravens. First, we'll start with Lamar Jackson, now 20-1 in his career against the NFC. 24 of 43, 316, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 92.8 QB rating. He also led the rushing attack for the Ravens, 11 for 70 yards at 6.4 a pop. Nick 9 for 54 at 6 per pop. And Gus Edwards 6 for 15 yards at 2.5. To the Ravens receivers, you've got Odell Beckham Jr., 4 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, 24.3 yards per catch. Isaiah Likely, 5 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets, 16.6 grab. Zay Flowers, 6 for 60 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets at 10 per catch. Nelson Aguilar, 5 for 32 yards on 5 targets, 6.4 yards per grab. Rashad Bateman, 2 for 24 on 4 targets and 12 a catch. Justice Hill, 1 catch, 12 yards, 2 targets. And Mitchell, 1 catch, 8 yards on 2 targets. Sorry if my hand's in the way of the camera. I'm trying to scroll this thing and it keeps moving around. I don't like that. To special teams, Justin Tucker, 3 for 3 on extra points. 3 for 3 on field goals, rather. Longest was 47, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Just call him Mr. Automatic. Stout with 4 punts at 46.8 per punt. 5th is his longest with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Moving to the defense. Things scrolled down way too far. Here we go. Okay, Roquan Smith had 5 tackles. Matabuke, 5 tackles and a sack. Stevens, 5 tackles. Stone with 5 tackles as well. Marcus Williams, 5 targets, 1 pass defense. Kyle Hamilton, 4 tackles. Patrick Queen, 3 tackles. Both Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Van Noy each had 3 tackles and a pass defense for the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on over to the LA Rams. Matt Stafford, 23 of 41, 294 with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 103.1 QB rating. All right, Williams led the rushing attack for LA, 25 for 114 on 4.6 per run. Freeman, 3 for 9 yards, 3 per run. Puka Nacua, 1 for 6 yards. Stafford, 1 rush for -1. All right. Cooper Kupp led the Rams 8 catches for 115 and a touchdown on 10 targets at 14.4 yards per catch. Puka Nacua, 5 for 84 on 8 targets, 16.8 per grab. Allen, 4 catches, 50 yards and a TD on 5 targets, 12.5 per grab. Robinson, 3 for 56 and a TD on 10 targets at 0.3 per catch. Tutu Atwell targeted once, no catches. And Williams, 3 grabs for -1 on 4 targets. Special teams, Havrisic, 3 for 3 on field goals, 51 was his long, and 2 for 2 on extra points. Evans, 6 punts at 51.8 yards per punt, 59 was his longest, 1 touchback, and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Jumping over to the LA defense, Jones and Johnson each had 7 tackles. Jones added a sack and a pass defense as well. Fuller tackles, Hoch pushed 4 tackles. Witherspoon, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an INT. Brown, Kendrick, and Yeast each with 3 tackles and with 2 tackles and a sack for LA. Okay, total yards, both over 400. 449 for Baltimore, 410 for LA. Passing favors the Ravens at 310 to 282. Rush yards also favored the Ravens, 139 to 128. Time of possession, LA 34 minutes, 35 seconds. Baltimore 27 minutes and 43 seconds. Okay, first downs, Los Angeles 24, Baltimore 23. Third down conversions, 6 of 16 for the Rams, 4 of 12 for the Ravens. No fourth downs for either team. The Rams had 5 penalties for 34 yards, 2 sacks for a loss of 12, no fumbles lost, no interceptions thrown, and 6 punts. And the Ravens had 7 penalties for 79. They were sacked twice, losing 6. With no lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 4 punts. Closing line was Baltimore minus 7.5, and the over-under was 42. And easy to say that this game shot over that total as the two teams combined for 68 points and 859 yards. I took Baltimore straight up and against the spread, so I won the straight up pick. So wow, I improved to 3 and 4, but I'm now 1 and 6 against the spread. This is not good. This may be one of my worst ATS weeks so far this year. The last game we'll take a look at is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll look at this. So we'll look at that game and then wrap things up. Okay. The Buccaneers were clutch as they ended up winning this one at the end, 29 to 25. Which forces a 3-way tie atop the NFC West, or not the NFC West, but rather the NFC South, with both teams at 6 and 7. And plus, the Saints also won. So again, there's a 3-way tie at the top of the NFC South. Let's look at the individual numbers for the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, 14 of 29, 144, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 86. Rachaad White, 25 rushes, 102 on 4.1 per run. Edmonds, 8 for 40 yards on 5 yards per run. Baker Mayfield, 3 rushes, 3 yards, and a touchdown. Palmer, 1 rush for 3 yards. As for the Tampa receivers, Chris Godwin, 5 for 53 yards on 11 targets, 10.6 yards per catch. Rachaad White, 2 grabs, 33 yards, and a touchdown on his 2 targets, 16.5 yards per grab. Good game for him. Edmonds, 2 for 18 on 2 targets and 9 yards per catch. Cotton, 2 for 16 and a touchdown on 5 targets at 8 yards per grab. Moore with 1 catch for 11 yards on his lone target. Mike Evans targeted 6 times, held to 1 catch for 8 yards. Palmer, 1 catch on 1 target for 5 yards. And Cleft was targeted once and didn't record a catch. On to the Buccaneers special teams. Chase McLaughlin, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest was 55, and 3 for 3 on extra points. Camarda, 6 punts, 54.2 yards a punt, longest was 63, 2 punts. There we go. Okay, on to the defense. Zach McCollum led the way with 6 tackles and a forced fumble plus 2 passes defense. Antoine Winfield, 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Britt, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Likewise, Levante David. Carlton Davis, 4 tackles, 3 passes defense, and an interception. Neal with 3 tackles. Then you've got Nelson, Barrett, Tryon Shoyanka, Hall, each with 2 tackles. Cansey also had 2 tackles and a sack for Tampa. For the Atlanta Falcons, Desmond Ridder, 26 of 40 for 347 with 1 touchdown and 1 interception, 90.3 QB rating. Tyler Algier, 940 yards at 4.4 per run. Bijan Robinson held the 10 rushes, 34 yards, but he did score a touchdown. He averages 3.4 per run. Desmond Ridder, 4 for 15 and a rushing TD, 3.8 per run. And Cordell Patterson, 3 for 7 yards, 2.3 yards per run. And how about Drake London leading the Atlanta receivers? One of his best games as a pro. 10 catches, 172 on 11 targets at 17.2 yards per catch. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 57 and a touchdown on 6 targets, 19 yards a grab. Bijan Robinson, 5 for 54 on 7 targets at 10.8. Smith, 4 for 27 on 7 targets at 6.8. Hodge, 1 catch, 18 yards on 2 targets. Pruitt, 2 catches, 15 yards on 2 targets at 7.5 per grab. Hollins, 1 for 4 yards on his lone target. Scotty Miller, former Buccaneer, targeted 3 times. No catches for him. On to the Falcons special teams. Younghoe Koo, 1 for 3 on field goals, as long as 20. Younghoe Koo is usually one of the top place kickers in the NFL. He was also 2 for 2 on extra points. Pinion with 4 punts, 45 yards a punt, longest is 49, 2 punts inside the 20. Elias and Bates led the Falcons defense with 7 tackles each. Bates also added a pass defense. Smith with 5 tackles and a fumble. Grant 4 tackles. Phillips, Campbell, and Street each with 3 tackles. Phillips had 2 passes defense with his 3 tackles. Campbell had 1 pass defense with his 3 tackles, and Street added a sack. And that's pretty much it for the Falcons. Okay, total yards, 434 for Atlanta. I think this is the 3rd time this year that the Falcons lost a game when they record 400 yards of offense. Not sure about that, but this is another 400-yard game for the Atlanta offense, and they lost. The Buccaneers, meanwhile, had 290 yards. Passing yards favored Atlanta, 338 to 142. So they outgained Tampa Bay through the air by nearly 200 yards. But rushing favored the Bucs, 148 to 96. Time of possession, Buccaneers 31 minutes 4 seconds. Falcons 28 minutes and 20 seconds. 3 for Atlanta, 16 for Tampa. All right. 3rd downs, 6 of 16 for Tampa, 5 of 13 for Atlanta. 4th downs, Buccaneers 1 for 2, Falcons 1 for 1. Tampa Bay had 4 penalties for 26 yards, sacked just once for 2. No lost fumbles or interceptions, but they had 6 punts. And the Falcons with 2 penalties for 10 yards. They were sacked 3 times, only losing 9 off of those 3 sacks. No fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 4 punts. Okay, here we go. Closing line is Atlanta -1. Over under is 41.5. Thank God I took the Buccaneers and against the point spread. So that evens my straight up record for the week at 4-4. But that's just my second win in 8 games against the point spread. And so with that, we come to the end of part 1 of the week 14 edition of the week that was. Join me back here later today as we'll look at part 2. Again, the 4 Sunday afternoon late games, Sunday night football, and the Monday night football doubleheader, plus my week 15 power rankings, and the updated playoff picture after play. That's coming later today, so join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.